Hello, welcome. My name is Robert Denton. This is the 10th video in my series on burnout, high stress, how to avoid them, how to achieve high performance without stress, how to achieve high performance after burnout, and all the related things in between. Burnout is very serious and it's not to be sniffed at or downgraded in any way. There is one lesson I learnt fairly quickly, and that is that nobody does burnout to us, we do it to ourselves. We do it via the way we think, our beliefs, our values, our emotional intelligence, and the things we believe in, and what we do as a result of our habits and beliefs are the things that create the stress, and the stress is the rub between what we believe and or emotions emotions or habits, and the world around us, the world we live in, the people we work with, the environment we work in. And if our beliefs and values don't match those, that's the rub, and that's where the stress starts. And that can be in our work, it can be at home, it can be in our play, it can be with our friends, it can be anything. Good. Okay. Now, I went through burnout, it mucked up my life and my businesses, and I wrote a book. That's the back of the book. This is the front of the book. High performance after burnout, fix the stress before the damage is done. The message is serious. Not the end of the world, though. I survived it. Many do. Unfortunately, there are many who cannot cope and they take their own lives, and that is very, very sad. And there are some who succumb to a condition called instant death syndrome as a result of it. Some succumb to heart attacks and even strokes. They are a result of stress, and doctors are finding more and more evidence that strokes are connected to stress, high stress, prolonged stress. Not necessarily genetics or anything else, although those things may be included. Stress is a serious problem in our modern age. Okay, now when I went through burnout, or as I was coming out the other side of the crisis, I was in a real mess, and nobody really knew anything about it where I lived in England at the time. And certainly my doctor didn't. He just wrote it down as stress. He didn't know what burnout was, and that was back in 1985. And it was pretty horrendous, and I really felt I was on my own, and he didn't understand what I was going through. So I decided to study neuroscience, study NLP, study life coaching, and sports mind coaching. All these things are related to neuroscience and psychology, modern psychology. Now those studies were proved to be very, very important to me, and I began to understand what burnout was all about, what stress was all about, and the strange things that were happening to me. Now, that's all in the book. One of the things I discovered in the process of understanding high performance was that it all happens in the subconscious mind. Why the subconscious mind? It's because the conscious mind can be very, very clever. However, we have so much to deal with in our modern world, especially in high-tech business, that stress becomes enormous. And the conscious mind just cannot cope with it after a while. In Japan, where failing to get a good degree at university can be seen as a insult or slight to their family pride, and many students take their lives as a result because they feel they can't cope and they can't keep going and they won't pass their exams, and So they take their own lives, and that is very, very sad, very tragic for them, and tragic for their families and their friends. Now, one thing, there are many aspects that I discovered during the process of studying stress and burnout, and studying neuroscience and the modern disciplines of NLP, life coaching, and sports mind coaching. Sports mind coaching I found particularly fascinating because it tied everything together and it made sense of all the neuroscience studies in a practical term. I'm not talking about the theory, I'm talking about practice. And I discovered that one of the simple things I'd never thought about before was habits, behaviors, automatic habits and behaviors. And where do they come from? They come from the subconscious mind. We don't think about them. We just do them. We know what we want to do and we go along and do it. We know the way to the kitchen, to the bathroom. We know the way home after we go to work or we come out of the pub or the bar or the nightclub or wherever we are, the football match. We don't have to really think about it unless we happen to be in a strange town that we're not particularly familiar with, and then we have to remember where we park the car or where the train station is or whatever. And that's so in those cases that sort of involves the conscious mind. But when it's really habitual habit that we do every day, we know how to do it. We don't have to think about it. Now that's the key to high performance through the subconscious mind. And if we write our high performance programs and install them in our subconscious mind in one go, and we can do that with the use of hypnosis, self-hypnosis, if you like, or somebody can help us to do it. But in principle, when I do this with my clients, I ensure they do it. So they know what they're doing and they're fully responsible. And they take the responsibility for what they're doing. And therefore, they must understand it fully before they do it. And that's all part of the training I do. Now, one of the early experiments I did myself was realizing, I was at the time, or after the burnout, sometime after the burnout, I started to do some long journeys driving through the UK and then down into France, and right the way down to the south of France. And that could be a 23-hour drive with a few stops on the way. Now, when I first did it, I was exhausted. It took me 3 days to recover, and I was much younger than I am now. And I thought, no way, I'm not doing that again. So on the way back to the UK, I was thinking about it, and then sometime following, I worked it all out. And I understood that two principal stressors of long journey driving a car are time and distance. Now, when you match those two together, then they become very stressful. And if you've got children in a car who are saying, when are we going to get there? Aren't we there yet? And you've still got 14 hours to go. So, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And that becomes an additional stress. Okay. Now, I worked out that quite naturally, we use the subconscious brain to delete certain awareness. I realized that by deleting the awareness of time and distance, largely my conscious mind, so I could see signboards that said Paris 243 kilometers and Marseille 700 and whatever kilometers. I could see those, register them, but not be stressed by them. I was, in the subconscious mind, I was deleting the awareness, and particularly the awareness of time, because otherwise, on the dashboard of my car, there was a very prominent clock. So when I would see these signboards and see the enormous amount of kilometers that I had to drive, and I could see the time, that was stressful. When I deleted the awareness of time and distance, I could see the clock. I could see the panel showing, the roadside panel showing the numbers of kilometers to go, but they didn't stress me. That it was just information. It had no emotional content, as in, oh my goodness me, what a long way I've got to drive, and that's going to be another 22 hours. Horror. No. When one deletes the awareness of time and distance, that horror doesn't happen. Time, we can't stop time, we can't delete distance. They exist, but we can delete the awareness of them. And by deleting the awareness of them, we stop the stress that they cause. Then, the first time I did that, I was absolutely amazed, because when I got to my destination, got out of the car, and instantly I had the feeling I'd just left my home in England. The second thing I noticed was I wasn't at all stressed. Now, the funny thing is that on the journey, I stopped about every 2 hours for a rest, a drink, a coffee, or whatever. One does, one stops for rest. And at no time during those stops did I have that same sensation that I'd just left my home, or that I didn't feel stressed. It was all part of the journey, and that was all part of the journey program and the deletion of the awareness of time and distance for that specific journey. And one could have a general program to do this, but in this case, this was a specific deletion of time and distance for a specific journey. And I was absolutely amazed. And to get out of the car and suddenly, for that split second, feeling I had just left my home in England, and then it passed. And immediately I knew that the program had worked beautifully. And then I was hit by the fact that I didn't feel at all tired. 23 hours driving with stops every 2 hours or so. Okay, fine. It's still a long journey. And that was really the launching pad for me to create an enormous amount of high performance programs to help me through whatever I wanted to do without the stress, and by deleting whatever it was that was stressful or was going to be stressful in those particular behaviors. So that's it. That's how it's done. I haven't explained the detail of how it's done, just what it is. But much of it's in my book, High Performance After Burnout, available at Amazon.com. If you live in Switzerland, you won't be able to get it because of Swiss government regulations. But the publishers, First House Press, have opened an email address, and you'll see the email address there with the addresses, the YouTube addresses of my previous videos. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening and watching, and watch the other or the next or the other videos, or the next video to come. I'll explain more about creating high performance subconscious mind programs and strategies. That's it for now. This is Robert Denton signing off.